The NFL draft is complete, so we need to do a rookie mock draft to showcase all these new values for these players now that we know draft capital and landing spot, because this draft board is almost completely different than what it was pre-draft. But this rookie mock is a little bit different because for the past couple of years, I've run this series of mocks where I take a real Dynasty team from one of our viewers and all of their rookie picks, and I draft as if I was that viewer. For me, I think this is just a really super fun, unique way to do rookie mocks. And for you out there watching, I hope it's just a different way to hear my personal thought process at each pick with the context of a real Dynasty team. So for today's draft, we're going to be looking at Neil's team, who is in just a normal start 9, 12 team PPR 1 quarterback league. The roster that he's given me that he's working with is Justin Herbert at quarterback, and then Drake London, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, Jahan Dotson, and a couple more flyer receivers, and then Kyle Pitts at tight end. So like the Superflex mock that we just did on Sunday, it's our job to see if we can fill in some rookie running backs for him with these rookie picks. So taking a look at the picks he has the 1.02, 5 second round picks, and then a couple of third round picks. And then he also noted that he has a bunch of firepower in 2024 and 2025. So this year is really the start of building back this rebuild and see if we can help make Neil competitive in 2023. So let's just kick things off here. Obviously, the 1.01 is Bijan Robinson. There's no surprise there. So the first decision that we have to make at 1.02 is Jahmyr Gibbs or Jackson Smith-Njigba. And like I mentioned, we had this exact same decision basically in the Superflex mock draft just down at the 1.05. But if you're deciding between these two, and I've gone back and forth basically all draft season on which two I want between the two, but the NFL draft really solidified my answer for me, and I would be going Jahmyr Gibbs strictly because he got the draft capital, 12 overall, which was actually higher than Jackson Smith-Njigba. He landed in a really good landing spot with the Detroit Lions, and after they traded away DeAndre Swift, he is just going to take over that DeAndre Swift role, which we know is very valuable for fantasy football because of the receptions that he gets, plus the opportunity for touchdowns, and what I think is going to be a good offense overall. And then there's also the possibility that I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just a better running back than David Montgomery. So what if he kind of, eats into David Montgomery's rushing workload? And now we're talking about a guy who has the potential of 180, 190, 200 carries plus 50, 60, 70 receptions. That's on the clear upside, like the 1% massive upside for Jahmyr Gibbs, but it's in his range of outcomes, and he could be extremely, extremely valuable. So I would be taking Jahmyr Gibbs at the 1.02, and it also addresses the need of not really having any running backs on this team. So to help make him competitive, if Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 15, top 12 running back this year, that's a good start to making you, Neil, competitive in 2023. So this is how the rest of the first round shook out, with JSN obviously going at 1.03. Then you have the other 3 first round receivers all being taken in the first round: Zach Charbonnet, Dalton Kincaid, Kendra Miller, and Devon Achane slip in as the RB4 and 5 at the back end of the first. And then we got 2 quarterbacks going with Anthony Richardson at the 108 and Bryce Young at the 112. And then Roshan went at the 2.01. So we're up again 2.02 and 2.03. We've got back-to-back picks here. And what could we be looking at? Well, you could go potentially the quarterback route if you just wanted a solid backup to Justin Herbert. You could go for CJ Stroud. Maybe you kind of punt that a little bit, see if you can potentially get him down at the 206, the 207. You could be looking again at the running back route. You got Izzy Bonakenda here. You got Tyjae Spears. You got Tank Bigsby. Some of these guys that landed on round 3 or in day 3 also as well. You got all these second round wide receivers like Marvin Mims. You got Jonathan Mingo way down in here too. Cedric Tillman's here as a round 3 guy. Jalen Hyatt round 3. Josh Downs round 3. Michael Mayer is here as well. There's a lot of options here at the 202 and the 203, and then we're up again at the 6 and the 7. So basically, I'm just going to be taking, I think, a whole bunch of dart throws, honestly, with this wide receiver class. I know we need to address the running back position, but there really just isn't any running back that's really screaming to me. Like Tyjae Spears got 3rd round draft capital, but behind Derrick Henry. And plus, there's all this news about his medicals. Like he doesn't have like cartilage in his knee. It sounds very similar to like the Jay Ajayi situation, where they knew that his shelf life in the NFL was only like 3 or 4 years. So that's a little concerning as also for Tyjae Spears. Tank Bigsby, I mean, I didn't really like him coming in out of college all that much. Then he lands behind Travis Etienne. What does his workload look like? Zach Evans fell to day 3. A bunch of these running backs just don't really sound all that great to me. So I think at the wide receiver position here, you could take Jonathan Mingo. You could take Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, Marvin Mims. I'm still partial to Josh Downs. We have a bunch of these second rounders too. So I'm going to take Josh Downs with one of them. I'm going to take Michael Mayer with the other one. You could also go Sam LaPorta. I'm not necessarily against that either. Just one of these tight ends I think is good value here at the 2.03. I would be taking Michael Mayer, going with the Raiders to replace the Darren Waller, production and role that they had in that offense. Mingo and Jalen Hyatt then go at the 204 and the 205. So all these running backs are still here that we were just talking about. But I'm still looking at this wide receiver position because I think this is where the biggest value is, of course, is this wide receiver position. So the first player I'm going to take here is actually Rashee Rice, who landed in round 2 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I feel like I haven't talked about Rashee Rice, a whole lot during this whole entire draft season. Basically, I didn't really analyze him all that much before the NFL draft, but I have this marker system, which is essentially just a series of baselines of thresholds that I want players to hit based on what previously successful wide receivers have hit in the NFL coming out of college. And Rashee Rice, actually, I have this draft capital adjustment at the end of it too. Rashee Rice grades out tied with Jordan Addison. So it goes JSN, then Quentin Johnston, then Zay Flowers, and then at the 4 and 5 spot, they're both tied. It's Jordan Addison and Rashee Rice. Rice hits on a lot of the stuff that I'm looking for a wide receiver coming out of college. Now, of course, there are the other, question marks about the competition level that he was at down at SMU, but just on top of everything, like if you just look at face value, the metrics that he posted at SMU, then he gets round 2 draft capital to the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the most wide receiver needy teams in the NFL. Obviously, with Patrick Mahomes, there is so much upside there for a player like Rashee Rice, who kind of has just prototypical X size at the wide receiver position, who could come in and be better than, Sky Moore, be better than Marquez Valdez-Scantling, all those other players that they have there that just really aren't all that great. Rashee Rice has an opportunity, maybe not like immediately, but by the end of the year, maybe even in 2024, to be the team wide receiver 1 for Patrick Mahomes on the Kansas City Chiefs. So I love taking the shot there on Rashee Rice, especially behind Jonathan Mingo, behind Jalen Hyatt. I love taking him there at the 2.06. So we're up again at the 2.07, and I think here I am going to be looking at the quarterback position with CJ Stroud. Just grabbing that backup quarterback who's going to be super solid for you from the Houston Texans. I think they're just going to try to build out what they can with the draft picks that they have. Or maybe should I say don't have in 2024. They still have the Cleveland's first that they could work with, but I think Stroud's just going to be very solid. He's going to be, Derek Carr. He's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe just a really good QB2 that if he hits, you can just throw him into your QB1 spot whenever you have a bye week for Justin Herbert, and that's the only time you're ever going to start him. Then at the 212 here, I was actually really hoping that Sam LaPorta was going to fall as well. We were talking about potentially taking Sam LaPorta down to the 2.03. Maybe if he falls to 2.07, you could take him instead of CJ Stroud if you don't want to at the quarterback position. But here at the 212, again, Cedric Tillman is still there. Izzy Abanikanda is still there. Some of these other day 3 running backs are still there. But I'm actually going to go with Jayden Reed. Again, I'm just following the draft capital. Round 2 for Jayden Reed to the Green Bay Packers. Again, another team that could need some wide receiver help. Jayden Reed can come in and be the wide receiver 2 with Christian Watson ahead of Romeo Doubs. For Jordan Love, maybe Jordan Love likes Jayden Reed a little bit more. We don't really necessarily know, but I think Jayden Reed could be in a good landing spot with the Green Bay Packers there at the 212. And unfortunately, I had this in the back of my head. I was like, man, I could potentially take Chase Brown here at the 212. And that would probably be a little bit early for a round 5 guy, but I absolutely love Chase Brown. I think he landed in a fantastic landing spot with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Brown is one of the most underrated backs in this class, especially after the draft, whenever the draft just basically tanked a lot of running backs value. I think Chase Brown, just an auto 3rd round pick. I was considering him there at the 212, but I was hoping he was going to make it back to me at the 3.03, but he did not. But if he is there at the 303, Neil, absolutely take him. That's a smash. Of course, you could still take Cedric Tillman, 3rd round wide receiver to the Cleveland Browns. You're looking at, Luke Musgrave at the tight end position. Will Levis is still there as well. But I'm looking at this running back position. I'm looking at Zach Evans. I didn't necessarily like Zach. I shouldn't say necessarily. I did not like Zach Evans coming out of college into the NFL. And he does fall to day 3, which I did predict, but he fell to the LA Rams, which I think is a good landing spot. There's opportunity for him, obviously, behind Cam Akers just as a handcuff. But then, what if they let go of Cam Akers and then Zach Evans has maybe a year of starter potential in that role in that offense? I think could be really, really good. Not to mention, the potential for if Cam Akers gets hurt this year, like I said, handcuff ability. I like Zach Evans here as a flyer at the 3.03. And then the other player I'm going to go with is you can either make a decision here between Evan Hull or Eric Gray. I like both of them as handcuffs. Evan Hull grades out a little bit better in my marker system than Eric Gray. It's only like 1 or 2 marker difference. Eric Gray, of course, is just a direct handcuff to Saquon Barkley. Evan Hull, a direct handcuff to Jonathan Taylor. But Hull has the receiving upside that I think could play in a little bit if they're trying to, take a little bit of workload off of Jonathan Taylor's plate. I think that Evan Hull has fantastic receiving upside that he could play that Nyheim Hines role off the rip and be a guy that you can potentially throw in as a flex, maybe gets you 8, 9, 10 points if he catches, 4 or 5 receptions a game. That could be the role that Evan Hull plays. Not to mention that if Jonathan Taylor were to get hurt again like he did last year, be like what Deion Jackson was, where he has that receiving upside, but then takes on some of that rushing workload as well. So Evan Hull could be a good handcuff there. I like him, so I'm just going to go with it. And that's going to be the end of the draft. Those are all the picks that we have for Neil out of this 2023 rookie draft and this 1QB mock draft. So this is what the draft board finally looks like. We didn't get the 5th round. The mock kind of bugged out, but there's your 4 rounds for the 1 quarterback rookie mock draft board. So Neil, I hope this video helped you understand my process on these picks with the team that you have. And I can't wait to see how this team looks after next year's draft with all the picks that you have in 2024, 6 first-round picks. That is awesome. That is going to be so much fun to draft all those picks. And then to everybody else watching out there, I will be doing more of these videos throughout the entire month of May, but I will only be making videos for people who are members of this channel. So if you want to be in a video, click the link in the description down below, become a member and get access to extra content every single month from Justin and I, as well as getting a video just like this and help support just what we're doing here. And thank you guys for considering doing that. But I appreciate y'all watching. And if you'd like to check out the same style of mock draft, but in a super flex league, then you can check out this video right up here.